Hello, everybody. Welcome to the group chat with me, Will Perry, and Mr. Alan McInally. Got to start with what is, for me, Al, really sad news. It was coming. All Manchester City fans I know will be really upset with this, but it has been on the wall, the writing. Sergio Aguero leaving Manchester City at the end of the season. Look, I remember we signed him from Atletico Madrid in 2011 for what is the bargain of the Premier League era, I think, £35 million. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what he's offered for 35 mil is just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
He's scored 257 goals in 384 appearances for Manchester City. The fourth highest goal scorer in Premier League history, but actually the best in terms of his record, in terms of minutes per goal. He secured City's first Premier League title in 44 years, or first ever Premier League title, but first top flight title, 44 years. He's going to leave with at least 5 Premier League titles, an FA Cup, 5 League Cups, and maybe the Champions League as well. The statue is being built of him outside the Etihad alongside David Silva and Vinny Kompany. And now there's all the talk of where he goes next. But, I mean, looking back on his time in the Premier League, and there's still time to add some more goals to it, he is the best of a generation.
He is, I suppose, as an ex-football player and being a striker, when I go to games, my eye's drawn to the way I think the pair play, or someone plays on his own, his movement. But if you get the opportunity to go and watch Aguero, he was dynamite. I mean, he was dynamite. Apart from being a goal threat, he was always on the move. He never like, you know, I'll stand in the D and just wait for the ball to be played to me. You know what he was brilliant at? He was brilliant at, in terms of team play. When the likes of David Silva used to give him the ball, he could obviously hold the ball up, but he could give the ball back, get it, and give it again. I don't know how I can explain that to you, but not just like, I'll give you, I'll get it, I'll give you, I'll get it. He's always on the move. And David Silva, it was almost telepathy with the two of them. He was absolutely unbelievable. And for 35 million for 10 years, he's been incredible. The goals he scored 1 goal. I saw it actually the other day on television. I think it was against Liverpool. And it was like, nobody can score from that angle apart from Van Basten. I don't know if you remember it. It was almost it was almost in the corner flag. And I was like, stop it. Don't even dare. Oh, yeah, sorry, goal. What am I thinking about? It's Sergio Aguero. He was that good. He was genuinely that good. And he completely and utterly terrorised defences in this country for 10 years. And he deserves a statue. And he deserves, probably just because I love him so much, and I have no affinity to Manchester City, but watching Sergio Aguero and listening to Martin Tyler's commentary on the day they won the league, it's just something that any football fan and an ex-football player will never forget. Never. Because in my head, I'm thinking, I wish that had been me. Because that is a moment in your life, in your football career, that you will never, ever replicate.
And that's why it's heartbreaking, I tell you, for City fans, because he has just been so pivotal to that football club. I was at his debut against Swansea 2011 when he scored 2 goals that night. And then we were all thinking, wow, we knew this guy was good. And, you know, no one could pretend they'd seen every single game of Atletico Madrid with him playing. But then you thought, wow, we've got something special here. And that first season, that very same season, he delivered the Premier League title. I was there for the QPR game. I remember opening bottles of champagne in my flat in Manchester with my mates before the game. That's how cocky we were, you know, which we should never be as City fans, but we thought it was in the bag. And then I remember a few hours later being under about 15 people over on the East Stand, just crying with my face in the concrete at the end of that match, because he made all of those dreams come true. For me, certainly as a kid, I never ever thought I'd see Manchester City win the Premier League, and that was the moment that everything changed.
Yeah, that game against QPR, actually, it didn't all change, but if you remember. And you'll remember who scored the second goal, and it was a header from about 3 yards. And I think he's at Roma now. It's
Edin Dzeko.
Edin Dzeko. And I thought, that's the first time, because I was obviously working as well. And when I heard that Dzeko had scored, and you obviously saw the pictures afterwards, that was such an important goal. But everything just went from there to there with Manchester City after that. And listen, there's obviously an inevitability about it. There'll be sadness with Aguero. But the bottom line is, that sadness will certainly be suppressed a little when you think of all the good times that Aguero's given them. He has been, you know, you're talking about Alan Shearer, you're talking about Thierry Henry, you're talking about Andy Cole. I'm trying to think of probably the top 5 goal scorers in the Premier Division.
Well, he's number 4, isn't he? So yeah, you've got Cole.
4, yeah.
You've got Cole. Obviously got Shearer. You've got Rooney. You've got Cole.
Rooney.
Cole's on 187, right? And Aguero's on 181. So I mean, it would be great if he could finish as the 3rd all-time Premier League goal scorer. But the way that he's going, and he's only made 14 appearances in all competitions this season, I'm not so sure. But what a fitting way it would be, Al, if he is, as a swan song, to lift the Champions League trophy, which is what it was all about when he came. Well, it was about winning the Premier League, but that 10-year plan was about trying to get the European silverware as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think, well, it's a possibility. There's absolutely no question about it, for sure. I mean, he's going to leave with at least 2 more trophies, you think? And right away, I'm going to say I think they'll win the League Cup, which is 3 weeks away. Is it 17th of April, I think it is? And then against Spurs, and obviously going to win the league. So it would be, listen, you're a Man City fan, and Man City fans are like, praying that they can possibly win the Champions League with, Aguero and obviously with Pep Guardiola. But it would certainly be some way to bow out. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible. And to be quite honest with you, the way he's written storybooks at Manchester City, maybe that's already written in the stars, mate, and it's actually going to fall for him, and he will go with everybody's blessing to wherever he goes, because he's been that good in the Premier League.
Right, I want to talk to you about Aidy Boothroyd, okay? And look, it's not down to us to be putting pressure on managers, and certainly managers of under-21 sides. But he's obviously the England under-21 boss, and there is some heat coming his way, which is understandable because of results and players that he's had, etc. I don't know what your thoughts are on an under-21 boss. Is their job to win silverware, or is it to produce players that are eventually good enough to play for the senior team? And, I know the clubs are doing that as well. But England's under-21s are now in a situation where they have to beat Croatia by 2 goals or more in the under-21 European Championship on Wednesday, and hope results go their way as well to progress. So they're in a tricky time at the moment. England have managed 34 goals in 10 qualifying games to help Eddie Nketiah surpass that record, didn't they? Previously helped by Alan Shearer and Franny Jeffers. So it was all going so well in terms of goals. Frank Lampard is now being linked with that role to replace Boothroyd as a potential successor. I'm not sure if that's something that he necessarily want, but his name's out there. And having seen obviously a talented squad that included the likes of Phil Foden, Tammy Abraham, James Maddison pick up just 1 point from 3 matches in 2019, you can understand why there's a bit of chat about what's going on with the under-21s.
First and foremost, I think modern day football now, it's the position of winning trophies, whether you're an under-16 manager or a manager of a proper football club. I think it's heightened more, Will. I think silverware is expected, and certainly I think it's because of the England squad. You mentioned 3, 4, 5 players there, and they are the cream of the crop, and they're playing in the Premier Division. So I think that's why I think expectancy has just risen so highly. Personally, even maybe under 21s, you're looking for them to be successful. I understand that. Certainly lower down, who cares? Genuinely, I don't care if you don't win a title, but I'd like to see 3 or 4 of them mature into the next level, and then mature into the next level. Remember, whatever way Gareth Southgate plays England, that's the way the 21 should be playing. That's the way the 18 should be playing. So the progression, when you eventually get, okay, there's different ways, and it depends who you play. But at the same time, you still have to be a little au fait with everything that's happening around. Okay, we're going to play 3 at the back, and we're going to play a diamond. We're going to play 2 wide players and 1 up top. Whatever way it is, they have to be ready to rock and roll as soon as if you're good enough to be taken in to the big squad. In terms of winning things, I just think there's a bigger expectation on the under 21s. If it's some bad results, by the way, even I watched a little bit of the Portugal game. Portugal were much better than England. They really were. I thought they were better than them. And that was disappointing because they'd just come off a defeat. So then, you're worried about Aidy Boothroyd, who's getting a bit of stick, having to galvanise them, to get them back into something. But I don't know whether there's another scenario here, Will, and I'm kind of curveballing this a little bit, that I'm not saying that they don't care, the lads, but it's though the under-21s is maybe a little below them and they don't need to bother so much. Whereas I still think there's still a lot of expectancy on the under-21s. Now, I don't know if that's true, and I'm sure the lads are delighted to be picked for the squad, but I didn't see enough fight. I didn't see enough grit and determination. Whereas if they'd been picked for the big squad, I think that might have been a different scenario. But I can understand why he's getting a bit of stick. And I'm sorry to go on too much about this, but I don't know if they expect him to win. And if that is his remit, then he's under pressure. If it's to get at least 3, 4, 5 of the lads to progress to the national team proper, then you've got to say he's doing his job fine at the moment.
Can you see Lampard being interested in that job?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. To be involved with England at that level, I think it would be something that Frank would think about. I mean, I genuinely don't know. I haven't spoken to Frank, so I don't know. But to be involved with England at any setup like that and impart the knowledge that Frank Lampard have got, I think England would bite his hand off. Whether Frank would be interested in that, because obviously he's already been a Premier Division manager, maybe he still wants that back again. But I suppose of all the under-21 teams, England are certainly, with the highlight of the quality in the Premiership, are always going to be scrutinised like that. And obviously the manager, Eddie Boothroyd, right now is on a shaky wicket. And incidentally, when you're waiting for other teams to do you a favour and you've got to beat Croatia 2-0, England are not qualifying. Well, it's as simple as that.
Right, England senior team. Let's talk about the front three at the Euros, if it's going to be a front three. And I know we've talked about striking options in the past. But when you look at, for example, England's last setup, right, against Albania in the World Cup qualifier, they played Sterling, Kane and Foden as a three. The game before that against San Marino, it was Lingard, Calvert-Lewin and Sterling, obviously experimenting. It's San Marino, let's face it. And then I go back to a sort of important game in the Nations League, which was against Belgium, where they played Mount and Grealish behind Harry Kane. Everyone's fit, and we've mentioned a few names there, and there's obviously some that we haven't mentioned. Sancho, for example, will he get a shout? Everyone's fit. Kane starts in that central role. Who plays either side of him?
Right. Let's be genuinely serious. We like a laugh and a joke. We try and get accumulators. You know, some of the subjects we get, we can delve deep into them and we skirt run about them. This is your front three. And you know Rashford is he's like my boy. I mean, I've watched the kid for ages. I love him. It's been a tough season for him. Genuinely tough season for him. This is your starting three. Should be Kane, Grealish, Foden. That's your front three.
No Sterling.
Foden, no Sterling. No Sterling.
Wow.
Absolutely not. I don't think he deserves a start. I think Grealish does. Foden has been absolutely unbelievable and deserves a pat in the back and deserves a start for England. And he can play in that further position. He can also play a little deeper. I like him when he's front like that. And he does a shift. He works his tail. I think Grealish has had a great season. He's got an injury at the moment. I think he's a starter. I think Aston Villa are obviously noticeably weaker under him, which means he carries huge influence in the football club or football team. And I think he should be a starter for England because he's got something else, Jack. And I think he could link up brilliant with Kane, and he does a shift. You need players, even though you're playing there, there's still a team job to be done. And Kane's obviously a starter all day long. It's not Rashford because it's been a tough year. It's not Sterling because I think Foden's been better. It's not Mount because he'll play deeper. That's your front three. Kane in the middle, Grealish on the left, Foden on the right.
Right. Next big question. Should and will Harry Kane push for a move? Because look, if he is going to leave Tottenham, and there is increasing chat that this is going to happen, this is the time, isn't it? You know, when you get into April now, where you're looking towards the last 8 weeks of the season and what you're going to do over the summer. For him, the Euros will come thick and fast, and then they'll suddenly be back into pre-season training. So if he wants to leave, this is when he starts making the noise. So does he start making that noise? And we've got to remind everyone, he's going to be 28 come the new season. In July is his 28th birthday. So he'll be kicking off that first game of the season, whether it's in a Manchester City, a Manchester United shirt as a 28-year-old. You're not at the end. You know that as a striker, and, you know, injury aside, he's still got a good few years. He's still got one big contract left in him. He's been at Tottenham now since he was 11 years old, and he's won nothing.
Wow.
You wouldn't have thought that was the case. He's been there since 2004 as a kid. Yeah. He scored 20 plus goals a season in 7 straight campaigns. for his boyhood club. That's incredible. Where would Tottenham be without Harry Kane? It doesn't bear thinking about as a Spurs fan. He will obviously, as a Spurs diehard, have his eyes on Jimmy Greaves' record, which he can easily beat if he stays at Tottenham. And this season, we have to tell everyone as well, 27 times he scored this season, 16 assists from 40 appearances for Spurs in all competitions. This is in an average Spurs team. I know they were top of the table and talking about the title, but we all knew that wasn't going to happen. And he's still banging in those sorts of goals. So Manchester United, Manchester City, PSG with Pochettino is an obvious link. He either moves now, doesn't he? Or he stays there for the rest of his career.
He either moves now or stays there for the rest of his career. End of. You're right. You're absolutely right. I think he's still got 3 years in his contract. I'm almost sure he does. So Tottenham are going to be wanting. See, okay, let's talk about this. Well, I'll ask you the question before we get into him now. How much to buy Kane from Spurs?
Well, I think you're looking between with time left on his contract and, you know, arguably in his peak years. I reckon you're looking at Spurs would want at least 120, but I reckon teams would be bidding for him at 150 million.
Yeah, I think in my head I was thinking he'll go for 117, 118 million, and that was what I was thinking. That Levy would think, okay, we ain't getting 150 million. We're asking for it, but genuinely, will that really? Now, let's just say PSG, Real Madrid, Man City, Manchester United, and Juve. Let's throw another country in. All come in with 118 million, 120 million, whatever. Just round it up. Levy doesn't want Kane to go. The Spurs fans don't want Kane to go. But I think there might be a part of Kane now, out with the Jimmy Greaves thing. I think he might be thinking, I think it is time for me to go. I genuinely do. And if Levy doesn't accept the money, then you've got a very unhappy Harry Kane at your club, missing the opportunity to go and play somewhere else. That he might win a league, that he might win a Champions League. Then you have to worry about who's got the money to spend. Well, I think the 5 or 4 clubs we spoke about there have that kind of money. And I think we've spoken about this a couple of times, and I've always thought that I don't really know if I see Harry Kane throwing the toys out the pram and wants to move. But I think when City beat them in the League Cup, because I think they will, I think the switch might come on. And I think he might say, I want to go. I genuinely do.
But at that stage, then where does he go? Because it's a big decision to make, right? And it's not about money. It won't be about money with Harry Kane. Obviously, the money's lovely, and it will come because he deserves it, and he's at that age of his career. You're going to go to Manchester United and try and win trophies. There's no guarantee that as a 28-year-old you're going to go to United and within your 4-year contract that you sign, going to win anything. They haven't won a trophy for the last 3 seasons. Not going to win one this season by the looks of it. So do you go instantly somewhere? I don't even know if City would want him or whether they pull someone out of left field to replace Aguero. But you want to go somewhere and win straight away. You know, if you go to PSG, you're going to win a league title. Does a French league title mean anything to Harry Kane? Not really sure it does. He wants to win the Premier League. That's what he's always dreamt about. And he'll want to win the Champions League. He's been to a Champions League final, lost it against Liverpool. Most likely place to go and win trophies straight away in England is obviously Manchester City. If they don't want him, then what do? You choose between United and staying at Tottenham. Then it might come down to, okay, well, I'll stay at Spurs. I'll take another big last contract, be a Spurs hero, be that all-time, one club guy who breaks Jimmy Greaves' record.
I know, there's a couple of kind of proper impondables there that you've spoken about, that there's a likelihood that if City don't want him, and then let's face it, City have played without a striker for most of the season, really, haven't they? I mean, with the greatest respect to Jesus, he's still nowhere near, I don't think, Harry Kane.
No.
I do genuinely think he could just fit straight into Manchester City's team, first and foremost. I do think he could play in Man City's team. Not a problem. Kane's a better football player than a lot of people give him credit for. To be honest, I think Kane could play as a number 10. To be honest, I know he's a big lad, but he's got great control. He's really good on the ball. So I think the City thing's a goer. The Man United thing, let
me just rewind you 2 seconds, because it's a great point you make there. And I know he does. He plays deeper, and the older he gets, he hasn't got that pace. Never really had that pace, did he? But he plays those little balls from a 10 position and would play in, for example, Mahrez and Sterling and Foden, etc.
All day long.
But that's what Kevin De Bruyne does. So where's Kevin De Bruyne going, and where's Gundogan going when he drops into that position where they're covering? So that's the only thing I'm thinking. I absolutely take it take your point. He is one of the best strikers of our generation, and he, you know, will. I mean, the record speaks for itself. He scored 20 plus goals a season in 7 straight campaigns. That's what you're paying the money for.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, take City out of the equation. United, is that a viable option now?
Well, that's what I was getting to, but don't underestimate. I was going to say, don't underestimate the size of Manchester United Football Club and the huge expectancy that Manchester United Football Club carry. Now, there's no question at the moment in time at Manchester United, they have players that are simply not good enough to play for one of the biggest clubs in the world. They're simply not. There's a huge difference with playing football. And I was very fortunate in my career in terms of Celtic and obviously Villa and Bayern and all that thing. You can't. It's not the same as playing for Brighton and Southampton. You know, it's just, with the greatest respect, it's just not. You can't lose games. You can't draw games, and you're under pressure at training every single day. You've got, the performance has to be high. There's no like, we'll play in third gear today, because if you do, you're going to end up somewhere like Southampton and West Brom and whatever else, if you know what I mean. And with the greatest respect again, then they don't have that pressure on them with the amount of fans they have and the expectancy on the football club. Now, to be fair, every club in the Premier Division now has a kind of expectancy, but a realisation of, we're not getting to 8th. But the fans still want that. Now, in terms of Kane, he has to think, right, where am I going to go? I'm obviously going to be under pressure. I want to win something. Of course he does. So we come back to City all the time. But I just, in the back of my mind, I think Man United are still a player. If he decides to move, I still think they'll be a player and maybe trying to get him to the club. And if they do, that gives Man United the opportunity to maybe win something as well as with Kane. So it's a tough.
But what is that winning? That's the question.
Right,
it's what it's winning, isn't it? You know, Manchester United haven't won a trophy since the Europa League with Jose Mourinho and the League Cup that season. He won the League Cup, he won the Europa League, he got sacked. That's because Manchester United don't respect those trophies. Let's face it. They think they should be winning the Premier League and winning the Champions League every season, or being in the mix in those finals to, you know, in the last few games in the Premier League, for example, to win it. So Kane has to look at it and go, have I got more of a chance of, I mean, right now, it's a bit of a toss-up. Who's more likely to win a trophy, Manchester United or Tottenham, when you've got City and Liverpool obviously going to be bouncing back next season?
But then again, let's go back to the point of you've obviously spoken, Man United haven't won anything and haven't really been close to winning anything, really. But Man United will be thinking, well, if we get Kane, then we will be closer to winning a trophy. Because he wants one, and he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League. So I'm trying to be devil's advocate a little bit. I think City are favourites, end of. And I'll just go back to one point just before you were talking there. I do agree about the PSG thing. I don't see him even going with Poch there. Unless he goes, okay, I've got a French title. Who's got one of them? Not many English players have a French title. And he will be a player in the Champions League for them. So to a certain extent, it's a goer. But I don't see that so much with Harry. Man City and Man United, I think, are the front runners to get him. And I think Man United, if they're genuinely serious about trying to catch Manchester City in the title race, they need to be signing players like Harry Kane. They need to be. Cavani's going to go. He was a stopgap. We knew that. And defensively, they need to sign someone else as well, Manchester United. So it might be a big summer for Man United. But, you know, the City pool with Diaz, with De Bruyne, with Foden. What a team they'll be if they get Harry Kane, Man City. Oh, my goodness. And the bottom line is, we do have 120 million to spend, Man City. I'm sure they do. It'll be interesting, genuinely, where he goes. And I'm going to finish this on and ask you the question. If he leaves, where does he go?
I think right now, looking at it, even as a City fan, I think he's more likely to sign for Manchester United than he is for City. Right, let's talk about Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish, Al, I know you absolutely adore him. He plays for the club that you had so many good years at. When you look at Aston Villa, right, this was a concern for me. They've won just 2 of their last 9 games, and they've missed all sorts of opportunities. To rewind 8 weeks ago, they could have been in the Champions League spots had they won those games in hand, and they were constantly playing catch-up with only, 2 games in hand, 3 games in hand at one stage. they've missed those opportunities. And now, at best, Al, I think you probably agree, it looks like a top 6 finish at best.
Yeah, best.
Jack Grealish is back in training for Villa. Is there a club in the Premier League who relies on one player as much? The obvious one is to say Wilfried Zaha at Crystal Palace. And I was thinking, even Harry Kane at Tottenham, you could argue as well. So that question to you, and also there's been I've seen some little bits and pieces on social media and a few bits in the papers with Jack Grealish being linked again with a move away. There was all the talk of Manchester United. Aston Villa got tied down and signed a new contract.
Yeah.
And now this Manchester City talk is arising as well. How crucial is it for Villa to keep hold of the captain again this season? And that's going to be a question that arises every single transfer window with someone of that talent at a club like Aston Villa. With all respect, who are, top 10 at best.
I mean, we've spoken about Kane with his love of Spurs, and I don't think there's any secret about Jack's love for Aston Villa. He's a Brummie lad, and he's playing for his club he's adored all his life. Do you know something, Will? Listen. Well, I don't. The Premier Division. I'm trying to very quickly go through. I used to think that Aubameyang was so important to Arsenal, but that hasn't been the case this year. But I do think genuinely that Grealish is as influential as any player in the Premier Division for the team he plays for. And I think psychologically for the other players as well, because he's so good on the ball, rely on Jack Grealish. And I think that's why it's imperative that Aston Villa do their utmost to make sure he stays at Aston Villa. But, I don't know whether I can see Jack leaving this year. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Because he's such a good football player. And there's clubs with big revenue and big ambitions that would want Jack in their team. And I hope he stays. I hope he stays at Aston Villa.
How much do you think he's worth now, Al? With that new deal as well. I mean, is he £100 million player?
No, he's 75 mil though. Yeah, he's 3/4. I don't know about 100. I mean, again, Villa asked for 100, and you take 78. I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult actually when you think about talking about football players. How much do you think he would go for? Because the world's a bit crazy now, and and prices are hugely inflated, and for English players as well, to keep them in the country, they cost more money. And that's been proven by some of the young players that have been talked about and the prices about them.
Well, let me test you then. So you're the Villa owner, and I come in this summer because this is a potential, isn't it? A club could come in, a big club, whether that's even Manchester City, Manchester United, or even a Barcelona, a big powerhouse in Europe, and they come in and test you and go, all right, we'll give you £80 million for Jack Grealish. You have to think very long and hard about that. You don't want to lose your best player and your captain and everything that you're building the club around, but that's a lot of money. And once Jack Grealish hears that people are in for him for £80 million, he might be getting into the board's ears as well. I want to at least have an option of talking to these clubs.
Well, first and foremost, the people that own Aston Villa are wealthy owners.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I say to Jack Grealish, okay, that contract you just signed, we'll top it up, and we're going to spend 100 million in the summer, and we're going to bring in a really good midfield player, and we're going to bring in not another striker, but someone who can play on the right-hand side that's even better than we've got at the moment. I think you invest in the football club, and I think you need to say to Jack, look, apart from you at the club and Ollie Watkins and Ezra Konza and McGinn, etc., and we've got one of the best goalkeepers now in Martinez, Martinelli, I nearly said, Martinez. I think you've got the nucleus there of something brilliant for Aston Villa. So I think they genuinely have to think, okay, we've been there or thereabouts, but we're not just quite, and we've just failed a little bit, and Jack's been out the team and we've not been as good. So we need to invest in the club if you want to keep Jack Grealish. So there has to be 3 players, certainly all, they don't have to be 50 million. You can still be quite cute in the market, but your transfer targets must be big, or they must be the best scouting report you've had, and you get somebody for 22 million and he's worth 50. You know what I mean? That kind of thing must be happening behind the scenes at Aston Villa. So to keep Jack Grealish, they have to invest in the football club and convince Jack that they're going in the right direction. Because if they don't, you know, he will leave for sure, because he's no different than any other top football club, top player. He wants to win things, and he'll think that maybe Villa won't win things, but the owners have to invest in the football club to keep Jack Grealish at Villa.
Good man, Al. Enjoyed that. Right, what's obviously you're going to be singing "Flower of Scotland" this week. Big week for Scotland and Steve Clarke, isn't it?
Just wait till we get these Faroe
Islands. I mean, I can see the back pages already. The headlines being written if there's a Faroe Islands win. Wow. And where are you at the weekend? Listen, I'm doing Arsenal against Liverpool, and it hasn't got quite the same ring to it this season, is it? As years gone by. That's the Saturday night game.
Yeah, so it's Easter Friday, so it's Good Friday. There's loads of games on Friday.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the studio at Sky Studios for the Friday. Saturday, I don't know yet, because I was trying to wangle Saturday off, actually, so I could get a game of golf. Because I'm working, I'm then working on Easter Monday as well. There's loads of games on Monday. I think I'm at Stoke. I'm at Stoke on Monday, who, to be fair, they've kind of plateaued out a little bit, and I don't think they can make the playoffs anymore. But I think it's Friday, Monday for me, and with a bit of luck, I'll get a wee game of golf on the Saturday.
Nice. Well, see you next time, Al. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.